Hey, it's Dane Scott here along with Pocket Frog.
Yay!
Today's subject, a little scary. Pretty much everybody has thought about it, okay? A lot of home business folks dream about it.
Wait a minute.
But when is the time to cut the cord at work and go 100% on your own? That's this time on Studio Take. Stay with me. The year for me was 1996. That tells you how long I've been freelancing now, but it wasn't a decision I made instantly or in a big hurry, and it's something you better ask yourself, too. Are you sure about this? Are you ready to do this? And what are the implications of it? Is there any going back? Are you burning a bridge that you cannot rebuild? And going forward, are you taking a calculated risk or just you're so tired of what you've been doing, say, at your workaday job that you just are kind of desperate and you're ready to just kind of basically leap across the chasm and hope for the best? That's what we're talking about on Studio Takes today. When is it time to cut the cord with your regular day job? So that's coming up. Head slappers, let me talk about that for just a quick second. If you are doing sales on Fiverr, and you are maybe not making as much per sale as you feel that you could, and you're not getting as many orders as you think that you should, and you're not seeing as much repeat business as you would have expected, and in general, you're just not doing as well on the platform as what you really would like to be doing, let me just strongly recommend Head Slappers 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 videos. Every one of them has something that it's more than a vitamin pill. It can really be, I can't think of it, nitro. I mean, it can really light up your Fiverr experience. It has for me. I'm in the hundreds of thousands range now, or at least over 100,000 in a year, and over 300,000 altogether on Fiverr. And a lot of it is due to the things that I talk about in those head slappers. There are 4 of them. Head slappers 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 4th one I call Newton's Apple because you'll just absolutely smack your cranium like Newton's Apple when you hear about it. In all 4 cases, they're things that almost nobody is doing, and if they were doing them, they'd be doing lots better on Fiverr. So get them. At the end of today's thing, I'm going to give you a discount coupon. So stick around till the end for that. A discount coupon today. For the head slappers.
I think they should click on that.
All right, let's get down to it. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart because I went through this whole process myself. Back in I started in radio 1976 and was in radio through 1996. So that's 20 years. And during that time, when I would visit friends who had their own studios, it was drool time. They'd have their big mixing boards back then that were I just loved all that stuff. In radio, you had all of that. So the idea of being kind of basically able to take all of these goodies home, like right now, even now, I've got my tape down. You can see it very well. But there's a tape deck here, and then over on the other side, I've got a turntable, and I've tried to keep a little bit of this wonderful old analog gear around me. But it's just the whole idea of having this equipment surrounding myself, kind of like the Enterprise. I've still got the wraparound console, like I always dreamed of having when I would set myself up with a home studio. And before I ever left the radio work, I was already kind of gearing myself up for doing voiceover work, and had set up in a corner of the basement. 2 walls, like walled off a corner of the basement, basically, and started doing acoustical treatments in there, and ultimately set myself up with just a bunch of junk desks that I formed into a horseshoe because that was the only thing I had to work with. And I worked in that room for, 13 years? Something like that. Until I finally just felt like I was tired of the basement and I moved upstairs. But it was within about 5 or 6 years of building my really makeshift little room in the basement that I got to the point where I was starting to ask myself seriously, can you really do it? Can you break away from radio? I'd had 20 years of it. I was ready. I wanted to do something different. Can you break away from radio? Can you really do this on your own? With that in mind, for those years between the time when I walled off the basement, actually even before then, I was doing some voiceovers on an ad hoc basis here and there. There was a point at which I was starting to see daylight. I had taken a course by Susan Berkeley, which taught me how to market myself, how to get an agent, how to make all the calls, the ways that things were done back then, sending out cassettes, and eventually sending out CDs. But a lot of it was just direct contact with agencies and in some email contact with agencies and so on. I was starting to notch it up. I was starting to see more income. At the same time, I spent one summer in the basement rather than going out fishing, learning how to do multimedia and web design. And so I had that also in my tool belt that I could do some of that stuff. And ultimately, by 1995, I was starting to see, like I said, some daylight. I was starting to think, this is starting to look better. I'm getting more work. I'm getting consistent work. I've got some clients that I can kind of fall back on. I've had several jobs in the $5,000 to $10,000 range doing multimedia and web design and stuff. And, maybe, just maybe, because of the fact that I'm not just trying in, I don't have my eggs all in one basket as a freelancer. I've developed skills in a couple different areas. I feel like I'm a little bit diversified. If I can my theory was I'm not taking any chances. When I am making twice as much in my spare time on my own as I'm making at the radio station, I'll cut the cord. Ultimately, I didn't have the patience quite to do that. But I made sure that I was at least making as much or even a little more on the side consistently, with the things I was doing on my own as I was making at the radio station. At that point, I decided, okay, I think I can make this happen. And it was at that point that I made the real ultimate decision to give my notice in a very pleasing, pleasant way. There was no burning bridges, nothing like that. And as a matter of fact, I continued to work as a consultant for the station for, a couple of years after that, just being on call for them. But it was time. I knew it was time. I had given it lots of thought. I had prepared. I had trained myself. I had done the work. I had gotten myself far enough along on my own that it wasn't a scary idea for me. At least it didn't feel very scary at all. And it was always possible that, everything that I built up would suddenly just kind of collapse. And then where would I be? And so there's always that possibility. But ultimately, I feel like it was a good decision at the time when I made it. And at that time, people who would start their own businesses lasted 5 years or less on average. Maybe part of the reason why that wasn't the case with me was because I really didn't have any overhead. I was at home. That's one of the benefits of the homework approach. You've got your facility. You've got, in my case, I already was kind of geared up. I had equipment. So there wasn't much that I needed to do. I didn't go out and borrow any gear at all. I just would buy as I could afford it. So I didn't rack up any debt. And so I was in a situation where if things got a little quieter for a month or two, it wasn't going to kill me. The other part of it is that we still had some debt not related to the business that we needed to take care of, but we whittled away at that too, so that by the middle of the 2000s, we were debt-free completely. And once you get, for as long as you're going with the wave in front of you, where you're paddling against the wave all the time because of the debt curve, it always feels like a struggle. Once you get over that hump to the other side, now you've got the wave behind you, so any money that you make that you don't spend is going into savings, and it's just a much nicer feeling. You've actually got a wave behind you pushing you forward instead of a wave in front of you keeping you back. So for that reason, I do not recommend borrowing money. Even if you are going to go into this full time and you're going to snip the cord, try not. The beauty of voiceover is that you really don't have to borrow money to do it. You can just kind of work your way into it as you go. So just a few thoughts on that today, and I would love to hear from you now in the comments on this. It could be questions, what about my situation? Most people, if they've got, say, a YouTube account, they're not using an exact name or whatever. So if you go ahead and leave some comments for me, and maybe you have some questions, or maybe you just want to comment. So let me ask you, have you thought about this in your own case? What would be your criteria? What do you think would be the safe bet? When would you feel okay about cutting the cord? In my own case, what I did was I basically pedaled 2 bicycles until they were both going the same speed, or the bike I was going to hop onto was going maybe even a little faster. And at that point, I made the move.
That makes sense.
That's what it felt like to me, too. Thank you, Pocket Frog, for being here. Johnny Unitas, our character voice here for the Pocket Frog, and he's going to be participating more and more with us. Don't forget about the coupon code. Don't let me forget about it. This is not something I offer all the time, but I'm going to give you a $25 discount off of the already discounted price on the Head Slappers thing. So it's Gig Doc Discount, like Gig Doctor. Gig Doc Discount, all one word, at checkout over at thegigdoctor.com/headslappers, thegigdoctor.com/headslappers. Now, let me ask you to do a huge favor for me, since you were kind enough to stick around to the end. If you are listening to the podcast, it would be a great, great help to me if you'd give it a max rating. Give it the 5 stars and the thumbs up, because that really helps us to grow. The comments in YouTube also help us to grow, to reach more people. So by participating, that's huge. And also, please subscribe so that we can do this all the time together. Thank you. I'm Dane Scott. We'll talk to you next time on Studio Takes.
You give me a call.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, I think.
Hello, cutie pie.
Until I heard the voice, I'd never done a crazy thing in my whole life.
Goodbye.